Good morning, Darren Daily community. Producer Mariana here. Today we have another special episode where we go one-on-one with Darren. This is another excerpt from a private interview session with Darren that we are sharing exclusively with you here on Darren Daily First. This one is a question that I know Darren gets quite often. So here we go. The question that Darren was asked in today's episode was, I read in your book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, that 66% of small businesses fail due to internal emotional shortcomings. Coming off an emotionally draining COVID, how can leaders emotionally gather and thrive going forward? Let's hear what Darren had to say.
Yeah, coming off of the COVID thing, I just got to say straight, Cody, people just need to get a grip, gain some perspective, right? It's like the reason why I cited Man's Search for Meaning or the story about Louis Zamperini. I mean, come on. That's what we're capable of, right? What we've gone through is nothing by comparison. We're not in a swamp in Vietnam with a gun and bullets flying by our head. We're not in a foxhole, in Normandy. We're not on a bread line during the Depression. I mean, buck the muck up. It's like the first person on their feet, the first person to get off the block is going to win. The whole New York Times article about people, there's this new thing called languishing. We're languishing, you soft piece of shit, right? I mean, we're too soft on ourselves. Everybody just needs to get more grit. Or as Louis said, we need to be more hardier than ever, right? I mean, to offer some empathy. I know that everybody's reality is real for them. I know that. I appreciate that. I know that humans need and feed on conflict and discontent. It gives us purpose and it gives us a sense of meaning. As odd as that sounds, I get that, whatever it is that you're going through is as horrid as being in that swamp in Vietnam to you at that time. Because in the absence of real conflict, we will invent it, we will create it, and we will feel and experience it just as real as if it was real conflict. But as my dad would say, you'd bitch if they hung you with a new rope. Meaning, no matter the situation, some people are going to find a reason to bitch, moan, groan, complain, gripe, and whine. And you know the adage, money and power don't corrupt. They only make you more of who you are. So if you're generous, you're going to become more generous if you get a lot of money. If you're an a-hole, now you're able to afford to be a giant a-hole. And a crisis just stress tests your character. It exposes your default character set point. If you're a positive, optimistic, self-responsible, action-oriented person, then in a crisis, you're going to level that up, which is just what I did, what you did, the people that we try to help lead through this. They went back to their base default, looking for the light, looking for what's possible, looking for the hope, trying to find the beacon even through the fog. If you're a fearful, pessimistic, victim-minded, selfish person in a crisis, you're going to default back to that. You're going to try to hoard toilet paper, and guns and such, right? Buffett said it this way: when the tide goes out, you get to see who's been swimming naked. So I don't know about you, we talked about this, but 2020 was an amazing year. I feel for those that had true health, family circumstances that were devastating. It was also a time when you saw the emergence of those who had a base default of looking for what's possible, to step in, to help, to be that beacon for their tribe, for their family, for their community, for their office. You saw that, as Jim Rohn would say, time either promotes you or exposes you, and a crisis just speeds it up. So if you're asking how do you get yourself out of this funk, I would just say there's two major influences in our lives. And that's the input we allow ourselves to be subjected to. And we talked about that, right? The media and all the rest of that. So your input, what is it that you're inputting and feeding your mind to start shaping your perspective and your personal philosophy and your sense of power and your sense of possibility? And then the second thing is your associations. And the reason why I have such an affinity and affection for you, Cody, is you're part of my dirty dozen, right? The few people that I turn to because you're doing amazing things in the world. And every time I hear about what you're doing and the crisis that you're facing and overcoming and, the big opportunities that you're chasing and the impact that you're making, we just talked about raising almost $1 million for veteran families. That's just extraordinary. It makes me what am I doing? I need to level that up. So your associations are incredibly important and powerful. You get those are the two dials to make sure that you've got on the right channel, right? What it is that you're inputting into your mind and your environment and the associations that you're hanging out with, because that will, as we talked about the mimicking behavior, that will level you up to a capacity you didn't even know you had until you got around that sort of exposure. So that's what I would say to how do you handle the emotional pitfalls coming out of COVID.
Hey there, Mariana here again. Man, Darren offered up some tough love for everybody in this episode, but especially for leaders. I don't know about you, but I know I have a big responsibility to my A team, to my husband, but also to my daughter, who is shaped every day by what she observes in me. Thankfully, I've had Hira's journey to keep me inspired, growing, and showing up as a positive influence for everyone around me. I want to encourage you to join us for our 2022 class starting soon. I promise it will help you become the strong, confident, and skilled leader your team, friends, and family need right now. An incredible group of leaders from all over the world is forming, and it's going to be a life-changing experience. I just hope that you are there with us. You can click the button at the end of the video or click the link below to join us.